our presentation, we're going to be discussing and comparing two of the biological theories relevant to the field of human growth and development. First, we're going to talk about Freud's psychoanalytic theory, followed by Piaget's cognitive developmental theory. We will then compare and contrast the two theories and explain how they can be applied to real-life scenarios. After our presentation, we hope you guys will be better informed about the details of Freud and Piaget's theories and feel confident applying them to other cases and scenarios related to human development that you encounter in the future.
Psychoanalytic theory was created by Sigmund Freud, who graduated from University of Vienna with a medical degree. He believed that all behavior, except for behavior resulting from fatigue, is motivated. He also argued that many actions can be explained by sexual and aggressive drives that people are not directly conscious of. Freud divided consciousness into three sections: the conscious, which are thoughts and processes that we can see; the preconscious, which stores the network of thoughts that we can become aware of if we focus our attention on them; and the unconscious, which is full of content like wishes, fears, and repressed memories that are hidden from us but play a major role in behavior. He also defined the id, the ego, and the superego. The id is composed of impulses that promote pleasure. The superego causes feelings of anxiety or guilt when a person thinks about behaving badly, and the ego is the balancing force that promotes socially acceptable behavior while trying to satisfy the id and the superego as much as possible. The 5 stages of psychosexual development occur during the first 5 to 6 years of life because Freud believed that those were the most essential years of development and would create the basis for personality traits later in life. The oral stage comes first, and babies in the first year of life use their mouth for exploration and pleasure. The anal stage occurs during year 2 when children learn to control the expulsion of feces. In years 3 through 6, there is an increase in the awareness of the genitals and sexualized activities. Freud defined the Oedipal complex in boys and the Electra complex in girls, in which the child has a heightened sexual and emotional attraction to the parent of their opposite gender and believes there is rivalry or competition for attention and love between themselves and that parent's spouse. The latency stage begins around age 7 when the conflict of the Oedipal or Electra complex is resolved and lasts until the onset of puberty. Sexual development slows down during this phase and the person's ego matures. The last stage is the genital stage, in which people engage in relationships with others to satisfy their sexual drives. Lastly, Freud defined defense mechanisms which prevent people from feeling the anxiety that occurs internally from unresolved unconscious conflicts. Some examples of these mechanisms include isolation, denial, and acting out.
Cognitive developmental theory is rooted in the difference between cognition and consciousness. By definition, cognition is the action or process of thinking, and consciousness is the sense of being aware of cognition. Jean Piaget was a Swiss biologist and naturalist. This naturalistic approach comes into play during his observational analysis of children undergoing cognitive development. His most valuable contribution were the stages of development. Others include schemas, organization, adaptation, and egocentrism. But due to the limits of time, the most important one will be discussed in the next slide. Cognitive developmental theory has 4 different stages, the first being sensory-motor, second pre-operational, third concrete operational, and the fourth formal operational. The first occurs approximately between birth and 2 years, second between 2 and 7 years, the third between 7 and 11 years, and the fourth 12 years and on. All these stages can be better understood by using water as the object of development. In the sensory-motor stage, the infant is not able to look at the water and make any known association. During the pre-operational stage, an individual can look at the water and recognize what it is and what its purpose/use is. During the concrete operational stage, individuals are able to recognize the volume of water despite water being in 2 different sized glasses. During formal operational stage, one is able to think abstractly about water and understand concepts that relate to life. These stages show how logical thought is related to brain development throughout the life of an individual. This development occurs because of a key vocabulary word called schema. Schema is defined as the structure of organization of actions as they are transferred or generalized by repetition in similar or analogous circumstances, aka the building blocks. These 2 theories have quite a few similarities, but I'm going to discuss 3 in particular. The stages are loosely based on age. Both theories start their evaluation of the individual from infancy and continue all the way up until adolescence. However, that does not mean that the stages end in adolescence. Individuals continue developing throughout the remainder of their life. The second similarity is the emphasis between children and adults. For Freud, both young individuals and adults have similar sexual tendencies. For Piaget, both young individuals and adults have some form of reasoning capabilities. The final similarity is development based on environment. In both theories, individuals are affected by outside forces such as parents, education, or the world in general. These forces impact the life course of the individual in relation to their unique individual development.
One difference between the theories is that psychoanalytic theory involves both the conscious and unconscious sections of the mind, while cognitive developmental theory only mentions consciousness as a relevant factor in cognition. Additionally, Freud's theory focuses on the development of personality based on past experiences and phases of development, while Piaget focuses on how learning develops throughout the stages of life. Lastly, psychoanalytic theory has three structures of the personality: the id, ego, and superego. On the other hand, cognitive developmental theory is linear and does not divide the mind or the process of cognition into different pieces. Now we'll talk about an example of psychoanalytic theory in real life. John is a 35-year-old man who begins seeing a therapist weekly to work through his struggles in his long-term relationship with Sarah. He tells the therapist that he and Sarah recently moved in together and their relationship is suffering. He has always lived and worked in spaces with extreme order, cleanliness, and organization, and now there is tension with a less organized person in his space. The tension is amplified by the fact that John is still afraid of committing to marriage despite the fact the pair have been together for years, while Sarah is ready to move into a new phase of life with marriage. The therapist looks at John's problems from Freud's point of view. Therefore, she believes that it is possible his obsessive-compulsive characteristics may have been caused by the way his parents went about his toilet training during his anal stage. If they were too strict or began too early, that could have led to his strict behaviors. She finds that his parents got a divorce and his mother moved to a different city when he was only 5 years old. That traumatic event during his early development may have led him to have anxiety about marriage and commitment because he is convinced that his partner will leave him like his mother did.
Miss Puff, a first grade teacher teaching individuals around the age of 7, is interested in taking her educational influence to the next level by helping students form empathetic values by fostering understanding between her students. Her approach should increase understanding of material and help students develop critical listening and reasoning skills. Classroom approaches necessary to achieve this result should somehow incorporate maximum interaction between students. Through lots of interaction, students develop necessary communication skills with an emphasis on listening. Through Piaget's beliefs, one is not to emphasize the result, but instead focus on the process. Piaget believes in the mindset that failure is acceptable and failure promotes learning. Student interaction not only benefits those who don't understand the concepts, but also those who have a firm grasp on the knowledge. This approach is directly related to helping students stray away from the egocentric mindset that is characteristic of his first two stages.
To review, we have gone over psychoanalytic theory involving realms of consciousness and 5 key phases of development that can each impact the adult personality. We also reviewed cognitive development theory, which is composed of 4 stages and the use of schemas. Both involve a series of stages but focus on different aspects: personality versus learning and cognition. We hope that through our explanations and examples, you now have a better idea of 2 of the biological theories of HDFS and might begin to apply them to a variety of situations in therapy, school, or the workplace. Thanks for your time, and we hope you found value in this presentation.